And welcome back. Now, the families of the 3 Lily mine workers who died at the mine have sent a letter to the Mineral Resources Department pleading with it to retrieve the bodies of their loved ones. Now, it's been 5 years since the ground collapsed, trapping the workers in a container that they were working in. And the remains of Solomon Nyirenda, Nkambule and Yvonne Mnisi have been underground since the 5th of February 2016 when the Lily mine caved in on them. And at the time, rescue efforts were put on hold, and it was said it was due to safety concerns. And in a letter to the Mineral Resources Minister, Gwede Mantashe, the families say that they cannot understand why their loved ones are being dishonoured by being left underground. Now, Morning Live did contact the department to comment, but we were told that they are not aware of the letter and therefore could not say anything on the matter. Wendell Bloom is the legal representative of the families, and he joins us now to discuss this further. Wendell, thanks for your time. Welcome to Morning Live once more.
Good morning, Sakina, and thank you for having me.
Wendell, let's just start with the department and the Department of Mineral Resources and Energy saying to Morning Live that they are not aware of the letter from the families. So can you just talk to us about that and your response to what the department is saying?
The families had requested that a letter be sent to the Department of Mineral Resources and Energy in order to plead with them that they need to strengthen their role as government in this entire process, especially bearing in mind the litigation that has been ongoing, as well as the fact that we are now on day 672, 5 years later. And that letter was dispatched to the department around Thursday last week, and that also included a visit by the Department of Mineral Resources and Energy to the site. And I do not quite understand the fact that it's being said that they do not carry knowledge of the letter, because they were at the camp. That's the department on Thursday, and that's when they received the letter.
So, Wendell, according to reports, the Department of Mineral Resources visited, and you confirming that they visited Lily Mine last week when the families made them aware of their demands. So what ensued during that particular discussion? Because, as you say, it's been 5 years. There are promises that have been made to the families. Have all of those materialized, by the way?
Just to give you context, Sakina, we now know it's 5 years since the 5th of February when this incident happened. There's a few important events that happened since then. There was a finding, and I put that in inverted commas, very soon after the incident, that it was too dangerous to attempt a retrieval. What followed thereafter was then an inquiry, which main focus is to establish the cause of the incident. But that inquiry by the DMRE, the Department of Mineral Resources and Energy, went further and declared that the retrieval itself was near impossible, and because it was unsafe. And we had always maintained that that particular finding is incorrect, because it's based on no science. There's no scientific investigation to establish whether the bodies can or cannot be retrieved. Unfortunately, the department has stood by that view, number one, and number two, has consistently advised us that they require that the business rescue process take its course and see itself through to finality. We do appreciate that, but the plea from the family, which resulted in the letter on Thursday, was the fact that, over and above the fact that there's litigation going on in this matter, surely the government must take some form of stance when it comes to its liaison with the business rescue practitioners, with the parties involved in bidding for the mine, in order to ensure that this process is fast-tracked. I don't even know if I want to use the word fast-tracked, because it's been 5 years, and it's beyond unbearable for these families that this matter is caught up in the courts, caught up in what seems to them that a department that simply does not have the political will to try and facilitate a retrieval, yet our government was so instrumental in the retrieval of miners in Chile in 2010.
So, and one gets, the families and how cut up they must be about the remains of their loved ones still being trapped underground. You, however, during your previous response did indicate that there is no scientific evidence, Wendell, of where exactly that container is and exactly whether those bodies can be retrieved. So as things stand right now, there are two parties currently bidding to own the mine. And I heard one of them in speaking to the media saying that they actually would prioritize the retrieval of that particular container. But can you tell us more about this, and how exactly will this, the awarding of this particular contract to own the mine to one of those two bidders, how is that likely to impact the process of retrieving the bodies, if at all?
So the first thing, Sakina, is that when I indicated that there's no scientific evidence, my indication pertains to the fact that the department made the finding that the bodies are near irretrievable. The actual retrievability of it points to the very question that you are asking. Both bidders have as a central point in the business rescue plan the retrieval of the bodies. So should either of the entities be successful in being appointed by the business rescue practitioners as, let's call it the successful party, then in that instance, both of them in their plans have a defined plan to retrieve the bodies. And just to provide the viewers with context, the collapse of the mine is right at the entrance to the mine. In order to mine, you need to resolve that issue of that collapse. Otherwise, it would be also near impossible to actually commence mining operations. So the retrieval of the bodies forms part of both of the bidders and the plans to open the mine. And the families are saying they do not have any interest in the commercial interests of the two entities. Both of them provide a plan to retrieve the bodies, but the families are not aligned to either of the parties. They are aligned to any party that steps in and that opens the mine and that retrieves the bodies and restores jobs. And speaking of, so many people have gone to Lily Mine in the aftermath of this particular disaster and made all sorts of promises to the families of the deceased especially. And at some point, there was money that was offered to them, and then the reports were that it didn't quite materialize as was promised. Can you give us an update on that particular situation, Wendell? That particular situation is reflective of many of these kind of situations where a matter involves desperate people for help and all sorts of promises are made. The promise for money has always taken the route of, in principle, promises that are ultimately not kept. The main focus of the families principally over and above any sorts of promises are the fact that they want these bodies retrieved. And they want to restore dignity to their families and to their colleagues, and then they also want the mine to be reopened. So any promises made by anyone, the families are clued up enough with the situation to know that the only people that can actually effect a retrieval is the people that open the mine. So if it is that someone is promising money, blankets, and shelter, that's all good and well. But the main focus here is can you retrieve the bodies and by when?
So, and that's a pertinent question, because in bidding to actually buy this particular mine, as you say, both bidders at the moment have indicated and have placed central to their bids the fact that they would retrieve these bodies. But how sure are we that that can actually be done? Again, have they done any sort of research, any scientific work towards pointing out how exactly they will retrieve these bodies and how long it would take?
Both of them have, obviously, because it would warrant an inquiry as to the why question, both of them have indicated in their plans what is called a decline that is meant to be excavated to more or less the point of where the container is presumed to have come to rest. And both of them have detailed plans as to how they'll get there, the more or less the time frame that it will take them to get to this point. Because as I said, and remember that without addressing that disaster in terms of where the container collapsed, without addressing that area, you ostensibly cannot do mining operations. So it's of no benefit to any of the bidders to not have a plan to retrieve the bodies and to restore the area where the collapse occurred. So both of them provide plans. Both of them attach various time periods to what they expect it to be. The one gives an indication of about 8 months. The other also along the similar lines, but those are all projections. But there are projections that provide comfort to the family that at least A, the mine will be opened. B, there's at least a time frame given, which has never been in place before, that we will then attempt to retrieve the bodies and to get to the spot where the collapse, where the container is presumed to have come to rest.
And does this mean then, Wendell, that the government, through the Department of Mineral Resources and Energy, is absolved of the responsibility to actually assist the families in retrieving those bodies once the bid goes through?
This is the great debate. The department has always reverted to its default position that this is a private mine. We've indicated to them that within the regulatory environment, they have got to do more. And this is the reason for the letter on Friday, because currently where we stand, so that we understand, there's been a judgment on Friday, this past Friday, that suspends a business rescue plan that was implemented on the 15th of February. And that judgment requires all interested parties to make submissions should they wish to, so that the matter can be decided upon on the 4th of May. Now, as things stand, there's very little that the department can do at the moment, because the processes with regards to the court order has to be complied with, and the matter has to be heard on the 4th of May. What the families are saying is, we've been here before, we've been in court on many occasions, but what is your role as government to implore these parties to say, bring this matter to an end? We give you a month, we give you a year, we give you whatever to resolve your issues, to resolve your business, to resolve the implementation of the business rescue plan. And as far as the families are concerned, that has been non-existent. This is why there's this plea to the government to say, step in. You are the government. You are the government that says you are for the people, and the people are calling out to you to call parties to order, to call parties to terms, to say, get to the end of this matter. Let's bring this thing to finality. And the families feel that has been non-existent, because there's a constant revertal to two things. Number one, our finding says, which we feel has no substantiation. Our finding is that currently the retrieval is too dangerous. That's number one. And number two, let the business rescue process come to conclusion. And those are the things that the department has been saying. We say that over and above that, department, take a stand, put the parties on terms, inquire from the business rescue practitioners, how far is the process? When will a plan be implemented? What is the stage that you are considering at? And bring this matter to finality.
And just finally, Wendell, we've spoken about the retrieval process and all sorts of possibilities and permutations around that, but how are the families holding up?
I'll give you an example, Sakina, and I'll make it personal, that if you were to put yourself in that position where a family member is stuck in the ground in an area that you can see, and it's been 5 years, can one even begin to imagine the emotions that you have gone through from day one, in terms of anxiety, in terms of tears, in terms of all sorts of emotions? Every time one speaks to these families, they break down. They break down and cry because they cannot provide the dignity and closure to their family members. And it is one of the most heart-wrenching things. I sometimes have to turn away because I become emotional about it. But to answer your question, how are they holding up? It's been 5 years. Their emotions haven't changed. They are deeply distraught by where things stand and the fact that they cannot bury their loved ones.
And I think ultimately that's what it's about. We're dealing with humans and their emotions around a very emotive matter. But Wendell Bloom, thanks so much for your time, for talking to us about the families that you represent. And these are the families of the 3 miners who died at Lily Mine after the shaft or the container they were in collapsed, and it has been trapped underground for the past 5 years at Lily Mine in Mpumalanga. So that's where we'll leave that one. Spoke to the Department of Mineral Resources and Energy, as was indicated earlier on, who have indicated that they have yet to receive the letter, but you heard the explanation from the legal representative of the families there, Wendell Bloom. So we'll leave that one there for the time being. Hopefully there will be some sort of resolution sometime soon. But right now, it's time to bring you the news at 7 with Leah.